Thank you for watching us on YouTube. But did you know that if you're on the go, you can get the full show as a podcast now? You can get our morning breakdown of the most important topics facing our country, news not being covered by the mainstream media, interviews with change-making progressives, and info on what you can actually do about all this. Search for The Damage Report on your favorite podcast app and subscribe so you know when new episodes are ready to go. So you might have heard recently that Kanye West, who is now like one of the biggest Republicans of the country, I guess. I don't know, I don't really follow music. He's gonna be having a lunch with President Trump. Might actually be happening today, actually. And during this lunch, they're gonna talk about prison reform and gang violence. And that is something that right-wingers are very happy about, as you'll see in this clip.
The president is getting some very public, enthusiastic praise from one of America's most iconic rappers. Kanye West takes a stand for freedom of thought and freedom of expression. We should all support this.
Okay, so rapper's gonna be in the White House. He's gonna be talking with the president about gang violence, the sort of stuff that would be in like a Kanye song, I guess. Again, I don't really listen to songs
Hooray, he's not shutting up and rapping because they've never said that.
No, they're very excited about having him. Now what's interesting is that generally when we wanna make the case that X person is being hypocritical about Y issue, it's always like a little bit of a stretch.
Yeah.
Because you don't get almost the same exact situation. But sometimes you do actually. So can we bring up this, this is from 2011, I think? Sean Hannity, Obama back to his radical roots with Common invite. Yeah, so that was a result of Barack Obama, the president, having Common, a rapper, to the White House to talk to him.
To talk
back
about
to his
what?
Radical roots.
Do you know what Common was in the White House for?
What was he in the White House for?
Common was invited to the White House. Maybe it was multiple times, but I know there's definitely one point when he came for a poetry and art night.
For poetry.
So he goes because he's an artist, and he came with his art. He writes and he performs. So he came for an artistic evening of performance and inspiration. And that was a problem. You know why? Because he's black and he's a hip hop artist. And those are very loud dog whistles to their audience. Like, hey, you know that the black president had a black rapper who once said bitch in his songs?
Yeah, that word would not be acceptable on most programs.
You know what that means?
Yeah. Now you might think maybe Sean Hannity doesn't know that what Common came back in 2011 was to do poetry, but no, he did, because Sean Hannity said this. This is not the guy that you invite to the White House for a poetry reading. This is not the guy we want our kids to listen to. And presumably because Common has had lyrics that are aggressive or violent or about drugs or God knows what. He's an artist. He does hip hop. You know who else does? Kanye West. Kanye West has said crazy things and continues to up until very recently. Did his newest album come out? I don't think it did. Wait until it does, if it hasn't already. Again, I don't know. I don't listen to music, but it is going to have some aggressive lyrics.
The aggressive lyrics might be like, freedom of thought.
Yeah.
What else? What was he telling me? It's freedom of thought and some other mindless the phrase.
Freedom of expression.
Expression and
that's
thought.
What it is.
And he talks about your Second Amendment rights. That's what he talks about in his new album. No, he doesn't. He uses all those words. You want me to quote a few? I can.
Just be careful which ones you quote, because
I can quote the really filthy ones if you want me to.
No, I think Well, keep it not too bad. What are you gonna say?
No, I'm not gonna say.
Okay, then don't do it. But yeah, I remember something about bleach. Look it up. It's rough. And Sean Hannity doesn't care about that, obviously, but he was really incensed, not just about Common, but by all these sorts of people, and not just Sean Hannity, by the way. Bring up this headline from back in 2011. Fox News calls Obama's birthday party a hip-hop barbecue. So they were pissed off that Charles Barkley, Chris Rock, and Jay-Z were there. They didn't like that. Of course, they left out that Tom Hanks was there too, and Nancy Pelosi. So to give you an idea of how wild and crazy a black barbecue this was, they just don't like the idea that the White House is gonna be filled with some people that are African American. And also rappers, until they support a Republican president. So with Kanye, their defense is what you saw in that video. It's self-expression. So Common doesn't have self-expression, he doesn't express his own thoughts, and it's obviously ridiculous. And as a larger point, and I don't really, at the end of the day, I don't care too much about Sean Hannity, I certainly don't care about Kanye West, but what I do care about is this new narrative, and that is the free speech, free expression narrative that is now a get out of jail free card for literally anything the right wing wants to do. Any racist or misogynistic or Islamophobic thing they say, if you criticize them, hey, it's free speech. You can't criticize me for that, even though you, in criticizing them, are exercising your free speech. For some reason, you don't have it, but they do. And if there's hypocrisy, that is going to be their explanation. We want someone who is speaking his mind, is willing to go against the grain, but not Common. Like Common doing a poetry reading, what, that just perfectly goes in line with every guest that's ever been in the White House? No, of course, it's different. That's why they were doing something different. But for some reason, that doesn't count as free expression or free speech.
So it's weird. I was trying to, this whole time, I've been trying to look up Kanye West's accolades to talk about prison reform and violence in Chicago. I don't see his academic background on this.
Yeah.
I'm still waiting for the, so the articles say he's going to discuss prison reform and violence in Chicago. He also went there in December of 16 to discuss multicultural issues. What came of that?
I don't know.
This is all a bunch of window dressing to be like, hey, you know, so I had this black guy come into the Oval Office, and we talked about violence in Chicago because Kanye's from Chicago. Oh, we talked about prison reform because Kanye knows everything about prison reform and our prison systems. Whenever the TMZ guy asked him one too many questions, Kanye walked away and said, you know, I'm gonna look that up, which cool. If you want to educate yourself on things, I love it. Do it. But don't come forward and act like you're an expert before you educate yourself on those things. You know what I'm not gonna go into the White House and talk about? Prison reform. Even though I do know things about the prison system, I'm not an expert on enough to go and talk to the president so he can do nothing about it, by the way. I do know people who are experts on it. I would actually encourage them to go and speak to him about it. Because the things they'll say to him, he's not gonna wanna hear.
Yeah, well, look, I disagree a little bit. I mean, I'm not opposed to Kanye going. Yeah, I don't think he has,
What's he gonna do? What's the good?
Probably nothing, but that's why.
So why is he there?
I, at the same time, am not opposed to it and don't really care. Maybe like with Kim, some small thing will change. I don't know. And if it doesn't, I don't really care. It's one less hour that Trump is gonna spend watching Fox and Friends. Yeah, what's the difference?
Because this is the reason why, this is the usefulness of minorities in America by powerful white
I know
guys.
exactly what you're saying. And I do agree, nothing will come from it. And I would say that if it was
something will come from it.
What's that?
Cover. Be like, hey, I had this black guy.
But I don't think so in this case because,
so you know, I'm not a racist anymore.
Look, Sean Hannity will say that certainly, but the fact that it's Kanye West now, I think people are on to that in particular.
That's what this is?
That this is not an actual representation of him making serious outreach to the African American community or respecting.
You know, Trump supporters will say that. They go with the list of, you know where black unemployment is now? Do you know where Hispanic unemployment is now? Hey, do you know that Kanye went to the Oval Office to do what?
Yes, they will say. Yes, they will say
to give you this stupid ass talking point is what it is.
Yes, and to get a new hat, I guess. Yeah, and so I do just want to reiterate because you're going to hear it constantly. It's, you know, that's the main message from the intellectual dark web and now from Sean Hannity, because there's no distinction between these things, Fox News and these supposed free thinkers. Free speech, when they say it, means absolutely nothing. It only means, if anything, is that they are attempting to deceive you about something. Generally, it's about the value or quality of the thing that they're saying. They want you to believe that them saying something that's awful is deeper in some way and more valuable, that should be protected more. That these people are being censored, not if they're actually censored, not if they're actually banned from doing something, if their literal platforms are taken away, not that they're barred access from someone else's, it's a private entity. But that if there's any criticism whatsoever, they're being censored. And that is, of course, ridiculous, as we have pointed out. If you have the right to say something absolutely awful, something racist or misogynistic, I have both the right and I would say the values obligation to speak out against it. And so in the future, expect that this idea of free expression, free thought is gonna be used to protect more and more awful, not just thoughts and not just words, but actions as well. That is their cover against any criticism whatsoever for what they do and what they say. Thank you very much for watching this clip from The Damage Report. If you liked it, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and ring the bell on YouTube to get notifications of our new videos. And of course, you can catch the full Damage Report live every weekday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific on TYT Network on YouTube TV.